Summertime here at Nanook Lodge. I'm Karin and I'm back here today to talk to you about tomatoes. Oh my gosh, the garden is going crazy. Look at all these beautiful colors and shapes. So fun. Lots of great things you can do with tomatoes. I get probably 8 to 10 tomato plants every spring and I put them in the ground. I buy them from a company called Uncle Wayne's Tomatoes. He's in Southeast Portland. I got a really nice farmer named Carl actually runs the business, but he grows maybe 300 varieties of tomato starts every year. And so I pick them out. You can order them online. And I pick them out and either go down to the farm and pick them up, or he's at a couple of shows throughout the spring around the area and you can pick them up there. But I just grow a bunch of them and I experiment every year. I've got a few favorites, but I'm trying to find those 8 or 10 varieties that I'm just going to grow forever because I love them and fall in love with them. So we'll talk about these in a little bit. But today we're going to really talk about Mozzarella Caprese. So simple, easy Italian salad, if you will. Appetizer, goes great on a charcuterie board or an appetizer board of some sort. It's also one of Shelley's most favorite things to eat in the summertime when the tomatoes are coming right off the vine, nice and ripe. It's simple, fresh mozzarella, olive oil, tomatoes, salt and pepper, fresh basil, but it can be so much more if you want. And we'll talk about some of the other things and the ingredients that you could use with whatever you have around to make it your own special variety of mozzarella caprese. Remember how simple I told you mozzarella caprese was? This is it. Starts with the best tomatoes. If you're not growing your own, make sure you just go get the best fine ripened tomatoes you can get at your farmer's market or your grocery store. Pick ones that are really ripe, and if they're not quite ripe, wait a couple of days and let them ripen at room temperature. Fresh mozzarella, I like Galbani brand. It's super easy, already sliced, ready to go. Fresh basil, mine's also from the garden. It's been a little bit hot this year, so the leaves aren't growing as big as I want to, no matter how much I water them. Salt, pepper, olive oil. That's the basics. Remember I talked about a couple of additions. Balsamic vinegar. Shelley loves a little bit of great balsamic vinegar on hers. But if you don't have fresh basil and you have some leftover pesto laying around, you can use that as well. Fresh mozzarella is the key component. But what if you don't have fresh mozzarella and you want to use feta? It will be different. It may not be traditional Italian mozzarella caprese, but it'll be a great tomato and olive oil and cheese dish. So feel free to experiment and play. Let's show you how this is all put together. Now that I've got all my tomatoes picked out and ready to go, the easiest thing to do to slice them up is use a serrated knife. So I like to cut my tomatoes in slices, but some people can make a mozzarella caprese with wedges or whatever you like. But I like the slices the most because they go really well with the slices of fresh mozzarella. I save these little ones and I'll just cut off the corners and I'll eat them. So the first tomato I had here was one called Moonglow. That's a beautiful deep orange tomato. This one is one called a Consuela or something. I'll have to look that one up and tell you what that one is. These are green zebras. So they're actually tomatoes that are ripe and they're green. They're really yummy and sweet. I like those a lot. I've got a couple of little ones here that we'll cut up because they just make great color additions to the dish. And I'm laying them out like this because I'm actually going to salt and pepper them before I put them on the actual serving plate. This one's called Black Gold. Watch what happens when I cut this one open. Look at the beautiful pale yellow inside and the purple skin. It's just a striking tomato with great flavor. Such fun and really lays out beautifully. Sometimes you get a little gold skin on them and they're a little bit more golden. Really depends on what the year and the season brings, but I love this tomato as well. And finally, we've got a tomato here called Red Zebra. It's the cousin to Green Zebra. You can see the stripes on the side of it. It's a nice slicing tomato, not super big. You can see none of these are super big around this year with what I've picked. Again, it was pretty hot this summer, and so tomatoes started to ripen before they got really big. So we've got those. Let's see, I've got another. I'm going to cut the end of that off just a little bit and get rid of that. One of those fun shaped ones. Let's see if I can get 3 slices out of this one. There we go. A little bit of an end there that we don't necessarily want. I'll get to eat all those side little leftovers. Little yellow one. There we go. So now we've got all our tomatoes all sort of lined up there. And the best thing you can do really here is to take your salt cellar, and I just sprinkle a little bit of salt on the top of them. Just brings out the sweetness a little bit, as well as accentuates the tomato flavor. Don't need a whole lot, just a little bit of it. Once we plate it all up, we are going to crack fresh black pepper all over it. The other thing I like to do is take my ball of fresh mozzarella cheese and lay it out as well. See, it's all pre-sliced, super easy. And I'm just gonna salt this just a little bit to bring out the richness of the cheese and give it just a little bit of flavor. Okay, now we're gonna create the basil garnish for the top of our mozzarella caprese. I've got some basil here that I've picked from the garden. I've reserved a couple of little of the tops of that so that you can kind of tuck those in around the edge, and I'll show you how to do that. But the rest of it, I've just picked off the leaves, and I just pick off all the leaves off the basil plant. These are really little leaves. It's been so hot, my plants, no matter how much I water them, are not getting very big leaves. But then you just want to take and stack up the leaves as much as you can so that it becomes very easy to cut. If these were bigger leaves, you actually could roll them, and that would make it even easier. But I'm gonna make a chiffonade of basil. And to do that, I've got all my stacked up, and I'm just gonna cut very, very, very thin ribbons of the leaf. Your knife has to be really nicely sharp for this. A dull knife will not make nice thin ribbons. See, just like that, a little chiffonade of basil. And then we'll stack up the rest of the leaves, and then we'll set this aside. And when we're ready to garnish the rest of the mozzarella caprese, your basil will be all set and ready to go. Perfect. Just like that. Basil chiffonade. Now, if chiffonade of basil is too fancy for you, or you want something a little bit more rustic, you can take your chiffonade and just run your knife through it like this. And now you've got just nice basil pieces. Either way, it works. It'll be tasty. So now I have my serving plate, and I like to keep it pretty simple so that the colors of the tomatoes and the basil can really shine when you put that all together. And there really is no rule about how to put this in here. I like to start with the colors, and I like to just mix them up. So we'll put a little bit of tomato in there, maybe some cheese, maybe a little bit of red tomato, a couple of green ones. There we go. Beautiful plate of tomatoes. Now, if you're prepping ahead of time, this is the point where I would stop. Wrap this up with a little bit of plastic film, throw it in the fridge, and you're ready to go. It's time to get this dish ready to serve. So, I've got olive oil. This is the stuff that we've talked about before, my friend Vieri's olive oil. It's extra virgin, right from his property. And I just drizzle just a little bit over the top of this. It's so good. Just a little bit of ribbons of olive oil, just like that. You don't need to soak it in it. You just want the olive oil there for flavor. Then we bring back our chiffonade of basil. I like to put this all around just like this. Makes it a little bit of chaos, and some people like that and some people don't. And then I'm just gonna gently tuck in a few leaves of basil just around the edge just to bring that whole plate to life. And finally, a little bit of cracked black pepper over the whole thing. Here you have our lovely mozzarella caprese. Salad or mozzarella in the style of Capri, which is an island just off the coast of Naples in southern Italy. Again, I like to serve the balsamic on the side because sometimes I like it on there and sometimes I'm really just a traditionalist and I love it just this way. But either way, your guests can choose to put it on like Shelley does or leave it off. It's a wonderful, wonderful salad. Makes a light lunch, a little crusty bread, and you're all set and ready to go. So, thanks for checking in to Cooking at Nanak Lodge. We'll catch you next time. Mangia!